There's this moment where the floor just drops out. You know that ride in the carnival where thing spins around real fast and you get stuck against the wall and the floor drops out? In that ride, you're expecting it to happen. You're expecting something to happen. But when this moment arrives, this descent arrives, the floor is just gone. You're not expecting it. For me, what happened was I was in the waiting room at the hospital and the doctor came in to tell me how the surgery went with Raph. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never had someone that I loved be in a major surgery. And in that conversation, just as a part of the conversation, the doctor mentioned a cancerous mass. And I wasn't expecting that. We hadn't even talked about it. And that just showed up. And I can feel it now that it's like just you feel ill. Like you want to throw up. Like your stomach is in knots and everything that was reality and was important is now gone and you're just stuck there. From the outside, life looks the exact same, but inside it's just turmoil. And I remember the silence, the moments where conversation stopped and there was just a little bit of silence and it was just deafening. It was so loud. I don't know the way to describe it. I remember taking her home. She was in and out of consciousness, and we got to the house, and it was probably 6 hours, 7 hours before I broke the news to her that cancer was a part of our lives now. And I remember it play by play in my mind, and it's almost like you're in slow motion. It's like you're acting in a movie and your brain doesn't know whether it's real or not. Like I can feel myself trying to escape. I remember sitting down on the bed and just, you know, I, Raph asked me how, what did the doctor say? And I have to tell her that it's cancer. And just, she's coming to me for comfort and she's coming to me for strength. And all I've got is this dagger to give to her. And I have to tell her the truth. And our life you feel it explode. And it feels fake. It's like I was saying, you want to hide from it. And it's just that moment where nothing is the same. Nothing can be the same anymore. It's just panic and fear and all of this torrential storm inside. If you know this feeling, if you know what I'm talking about, this is something that has happened in your life. This video is for you. It was August 3rd, 2020. And we lived in a farmhouse. About 8:30 at night. My wife's whole family was there because this is a big surgery. And I had been holding on to this bomb since about 2 p.m., knowing that this mass was cancerous. And no one knew. I didn't tell anyone. I was going to tell her for the first. And I remember waiting and it just being torturous to wait because it's news you would never want to deliver. Yet I'm the only one that knows, and everyone is watching me and kind of paying attention to how I'm acting and trying to not let loose that the worst news just came. And part of me is so happy because my wife is home and she's safe and she made it through surgery and all these things. And part of me is just so torn apart because of what I have to tell her. Like I said, it's 8:30 that night when she woke up and just asked what the doctors say. I wouldn't wish that conversation on anyone. Like I said, you just want to hide from it. You don't want to deal with it. All I want to do is just hug her and welcome her back home, comfort her and say you're going to be okay and this is going to This is going to be okay. And that's not the road that we turned down. In that moment is a realization that you're in a new space. And like I said, you want to just hide. And your brain tries to solve it. You want to fix it right now, immediately. How do we fix this? And there's nothing. There's no fix. There's waiting. There's silence. Small talk doesn't even why. There, it's such a weird moment. It's like the silence is screaming at you, and there's nothing to do. And in our case, she had 10 weeks to heal before anything could even be talked about as far as treatment. So we were just on pause. Looking back at our journey, I realized that we weren't lost. The place we were and the place you are has a name, and it's called the descent. This is the first territory of the bridge. This is the one that feels like you're lost, but you're actually found. You're on the path, even though you feel like you're off the path. It feels like your life has just gone awry, but what you've done is you've started another journey. You know, when the floor falls out, there's this part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. It's the planning brain, the perspective brain, the meaning making brain. It goes offline. Something called the limbic brain kicks in, and that's the fight or flight brain. It's very primal. Think there's a threat. This is my survival brain, right? This is how the system works. This is how your brain works. You are wired for this. This is why you can't think clearly. You can't plan. You can't think for tomorrow. This is not you failing. This is literally biology. Your brain is literally doing exactly what it was built to do. So you're not broken. You are in a moment that is called the descent. In the book, I talk about looking back towards mentors from scripture. And in descent, I want to talk about Job. As far as suffering goes, he is like at the pinnacle of things. And I want to read you something just to give you an idea of who Job was if you don't know. Okay, so Job was described as the greatest man in the East, wealthy, respected, and by every visible measure, he was blessed. 7 sons, 3 daughters. He had 10 children. Very full family, a legacy, people who gathered at his table. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a very large household of servants. Wealthiest man in the region. A man of genuine integrity. He feared God, turned away from evil. He had health, he had standing, he had everything that could be measured and much that couldn't be measured. Listen, he lost this all in a single day. A messenger arrived to tell him raiders had stolen his oxen and donkeys, killed his servants. While that man was still speaking, another arrived. Fire had fallen from the sky and burned up the sheep and the servants with them. While the man was still speaking, a third arrived. 3 raiding parties had stolen the camels and killed those servants. While that man was still speaking, a fourth arrived. A great wind had struck the house where his children were feasting together, and it all collapsed. All 10 of his children were dead. Later, his health, painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. He sat in ashes and scraped himself with a piece of broken pottery. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends came and sat with him in silence for 7 days. Take note of that. Because the sight of his suffering was too great for words. He lost everything measurable in one afternoon. Then he lost his body. Then he lost the comfort of the people closest to him. The only thing he didn't lose was his orientation. He chose, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Talking about God. That choice, made verifiably at the bottom, is this territory. It literally is the descent. It is unbelievable. There's a really important thing in there. His friends, what did it say? They came and sat with him. There was no fixing. And I think that's the most profound thing about the descent. There's no fixing. There's Simon Sinek says it so well. He says a friend will come sit in the mud with you. They're not going to try to fix it. They're going to be with you. And that has such value because this moment, your entire world, your floor has dropped out. Presence is all we have. I said Job's friends came and sat with him for 7 days, which is the best thing they could have done. And then they decided to open their mouths. And that was when things got worse. And I'm going to read their names because I'll mispronounce them if I don't. It's Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. And I probably pronounced those wrong. But think of them as saying things that we very commonly hear when we're in this moment of the descent. Things like, this is your fault. Just have more faith. This will pass quickly. God wouldn't give you more than you could handle. Like all these things that people say to us that just, they don't land, they don't help, right? It's not, these are things that are sent to try to fix the situation. Like we said, it's not necessarily a fixable situation. What's interesting about this is God at the end of the book basically invalidates what the friends were saying they were wrong, which is really kind of a cool thing in our life because it gives you permission to reject the false comfort that comes when people don't know what to say, when people feel disconnected. And I don't think people feel disconnected because they don't care. I think they're really disconnected. They don't know what to say. And a lot of times it comes across as platitudes. They feel so distant from you and they toss out a platitude. I've been that guy before I went through any of this. I all I had was a platitude. I did not understand, and it wasn't because I didn't care. But when you're the person on the other side of the coin that's in this descent period, and someone says something that appears as heartless when it might not be, the story of Job, God gives him permission to just set that aside. I've got a couple more here listed for you. There's everything happens for a reason, like I said. There's God won't give you more than you can handle, like I said. Um, at least, this is something that minimizes what's true. Stay positive. You know, these are all these things. These are these platitudes that just they don't help. And like I said before, Job's friends, man, they nailed it. They just came and sat with him for 7 days. And after being a person who's been in the descent multiple times, people that would just show up. I remember someone came to our house one day and just said, I'm going to clean your house. And they just cleaned. We didn't even talk. And they just left. And that was one of the greatest gifts. It was beautiful. And then some friends just came and just sat around. We didn't even talk. They just sat there. But that was so healing. It's presence. Presence is such a gift in this time of descent. This is interesting. This part is Job, he cries out. He demands an answer from God. And God, as he doesn't give an answer, he asks a question. I'm gonna read it to you. It says, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Reframing this whole situation. Taking it from Job's perspective and making it bigger, which is very interesting because he's presenting Job's situation as a doorway, as something, a new path, not as an end, but as a beginning. It's interesting. It may seem cruel, but it's simply a restoration of perspective. God showed up inside of Job's suffering. He didn't leave him there. He showed up inside of it. Man, Job 13:15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. That's a man who, at the bottom of everything, has decided where his orientation. Like we talked about earlier, this is in the horizontal orientation. Everything is like escape, get away. I need a solution. I need an explanation. There needs to be clarity around this. But in the vertical domain, we have a doorway. I mean, you can pick the story. You can do Joseph in the pit, Moses in the desert, David in the cave, Jesus in the tomb. It's a doorway. Every single transformation in scripture begins with a descent. Not in spite of the descent, because of the descent. And that is really profound. Talk about the Fibonacci sequence in the book, and it's all throughout nature. And it's very interesting because when the Fibonacci sequence begins, it begins at 1. And then 1 happens again. And that doesn't mean it's standing still, it's moving. But it begins that way, 1, and then 1 again. And when we're inside of suffering, when we're inside of this descent, it feels like we're going nowhere. But the sequence is going somewhere. And so are we. So if you're in the descent right now, you're not at 0. You're at the beginning. You're at the beginning of a new direction. I'm not going to give you a list of things to do. There's really only one thing that's important to do in the descent. And it's simply to name it. You want to write it down, write it down. You want to say it out loud, say it out loud. Thinking about it, you want to think about it, think about it. But naming it for what it is, not attaching yourself to it, just naming it for what it is very important step. And that may be the most important thing to do in this moment. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm not asking you to explain it. But naming it is the first step in this vertical orientation. I think back to that room when I first told Raph that it was cancer, and it took us some time. This descent took us some time to simply accept and state it for what it was. And for us, that was, here we are. It doesn't define us, but this is the moment we're in. We had to do that as a couple. And each of us individually had to come to terms with that. It happened in a moment, but it took some leading up to that moment. It took a lot of setting down some defenses and some internal walls and ego and all these different things. Stating it, saying what it is. Very important. No, there doesn't have to be gratitude yet. It doesn't have to be healing yet. That's not where we're at. We're starting this vertical orientation. Listen, you're in territory 1. It's not the end. It's the beginning. You're located. You're not lost. Job sat in the ash. He didn't rush to the next territory. As I just explained, when we found out, it took us time. And it's okay if it takes you time. Stating where you're at is the first thing to do when you're going to start moving forward. You have to figure out where we are. That doesn't have any reference on who you are as a person or anything. I'm here. Next week, territory 2. Once you've descended, there's only one thing left to do. Call out. David will show us how. If this is landing for you, subscribe. The next 6 territories is where we go from here. And if you haven't taken the quiz yet, the link is in the description. It is your compass, and it'll tell you exactly where